Hey man, uh, we're about to start this show. Uh, this is the Human Variety Hour podcast. How you doing? It's a weird world of stuff and bullshit and all sorts of other stuff. Uh, I hope you're doing well in it. Um, Hope you're rising up and you're finding all you need to confront the challengers that are challenging the people who are trying to survive. We got uh, we got these cop invaders coming in here, just straight up these super predator cops going around smashing heads, uh, taking names, taking political affiliations, going after Trump's political rivals. We are currently in a McCarthyistic, totalitarian state, and this show is hopefully some kind of a respite from it. But this is kind of it's a heavy week, and I hope everyone stays strong. Welcome to the Human Variety Hour podcast.
Thank you for calling Boston 311, the city's 24-hour constituent call center. Please hold, and your call will be answered momentarily.
Boston 311, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling for Marty Walsh.
Okay. So you can't really speak to the mayor directly, but I can leave a message.
You can't speak to him directly?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering if I'm not the only one calling, but I'm aware that there are certain steps that the mayor could be taking to make the police force in Boston much less aggressive.
Yeah.
Have you received any phone calls of these sort?
Yeah, we received a lot of phone calls about the 8 Can't Wait campaign.
Exactly. So I guess you're aware that right now the city requires more de-escalation, efforts. Requires warnings before shootings instead of just shooting first and asking questions later. There's a duty to intervene, and they're not doing enough steps for that. And all force should be reported, and it doesn't seem like that's being done properly.
Yeah, so what I can do is, so after every call there is an opinion/inquiry form. I'll be happy to submit your comment there. We actually do have a section for the campaign. If you want to emphasize this even more, you can email mayor@boston.gov, just so that these policies can really be put in place to protect the citizens. And I appreciate your comment. I'll do what I can on my part.
That's great. And I'm just wondering if any efforts have been taken, if there's any progress on that front. I mean, I know, cop cars are being burnt in the city as we speak in a certain way. So, there is a lot of upheaval. And I'm just wondering what actual policy changes or efforts are being taken or have been taken since the mayor has been elected.
So there hasn't been any yet, but hopefully that will change. Right now, actually, they're just still discussing this matter, and hopefully these policies will be put into place. But there hasn't been any official changes yet.
There's not been any. Is there any commentary? I mean, are they concerned at all? Do they have a point to make a statement even on TV or any channels on social media to say that we're concerned, we want to speak up for black voices, we want to raise their voices higher than they are currently? I know that Boston historically has a shady past of discrimination, bad practices when it comes to integrating school systems, not funding communities who need it. There's a rent control issue where they're eliminating affordable housing. Do they care at all about lower income individuals, including people of color?
So I do know the mayor did express some concern for the African American community, but to my knowledge, he hasn't really expressed that enough. So that's all the information I have. It's also an issue that I'm persisting on to happen as well. It's very concerning that not a lot is being done about that, but hopefully with these protesters, that the council and the people's power can finally understand that this is actually a real issue.
And has the mayor received was there any kind of transitional information or policy integration when Deval Patrick left?
So not to my knowledge.
As I understand it, didn't he add some chrome hubcaps to the official, SUV that the mayor kind of rides around in style in?
So if I'm being honest, I am kind of new to this job, so there's not a lot of information that I have about the prior policies. And I apologize about that.
No, I understand. You're just doing your job, and I'm just trying to, make sure that the office is receiving the voice of the people, and hopefully it's doing some change to, I know this is I like to think of this city as a secretly conservative town where it pretends to be Democrat, but at the end of the day, it keeps re-electing Charlie Baker and chooses Joe Biden over Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders as the candidates. So it does have a conservative leaning, but it feigns a certain amount of concern for people, and that's disingenuous. And I'm imagining a lot of rioting and protesting is going to continue until those changes happen.
Yes. I totally agree with you on that front. I have received a lot of calls that does confirm your ideas about the secretly conservative. Yeah.
I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not getting, too much scorn from people on behalf of these aloof governing bodies who don't have to deal with the kind of first line of input that you get, and they get to live in mansions and drive around in expensive SUVs while you're on the phone and hearing the anger, and actually you get to understand it and have some empathy, where they get the benefit of not needing to have empathy in a direct way. So I appreciate you as an individual. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much.
And I
appreciate that.
Hope you have a great day, and when you're off the clock, maybe some protesting happens. That'd be cool.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
You have a great day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We have to take a station break.
And what? And what else?
And sell some more oranges.
I see
3 kids
eating alphabets.
Sure, it's part of a good breakfast.
Smart kid.
What's new, Jackson 5? And your alphabets are C. Like decorations and alphabets. I'm gonna put color on my wheels. Mine's for the handlebars. How do they look? Beautiful. Hey, look at my great handlebars. One bike decoration in each specially marked box of post alphabets.
Mrs. Burns, I love working in your shop. But in the mornings, you have bad breath. You need Scope mouthwash. First thing in the morning, and your breath will really be fresh. That's it. I'll tell her about Scope.
Good morning.
Mrs. Byrne.
Oh, you use Scope, too. I just tried Scope, and my breath feels just wonderful. From now on, it's Scope in the morning, every morning. Ah, good girl.
I live in a 4th-floor apartment, and this laundry room is in the basement. I was tired of racing down to catch rinse cycles. Then I discovered Bounce, the new fabric softener that works in the dryer. The Bounce Touch means my husband's pajamas are soft, socks don't cling, shirts smell fresh.
My pajamas are soft. My socks don't cling. My shirts smell fresh.
My friend who lives on the 5th floor dragged heavy bottles of liquid fabric softeners up and down. Then I told her about Bounce.
The Bounce Touch means my daughter's blouses are soft, nighties don't cling, towels smell fresh.
My blouses are soft. My nighties don't cling. My towels smell fresh.
My friend who lives on the 3rd floor never used a fabric softener, and I told her about Bounce.
The Bounce Touch means my son's jeans are soft, socks don't cling, jackets smell fresh.
My jeans are soft. My socks don't cling. My jacket smells fresh.
Discover the Bounce Touch, new from Procter & Gamble.
I'll never blow my horn again. This pizza, the noise, the stew, my head is turning, my stomach is churning. Oh, Sam, what can I do?
When you eat and play beyond moderation, you need Alka-Seltzer for sound orchestration. Alka-Seltzer speeds relief to your aching head and upset stomach.
It's the sound of fast relief.
Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Ooh, what a relief it is. Fast, fast, fast.
Sooner or later, you're going to try a White Owl, and when you do, we got you. Maybe we'll get you with the Great White Owl flavor, or the mildness, or one of the Great White Owl shapes, like this, New Yorker. But we're going to get you. You know we're going to get you. It's only a matter of time, and then we're going to get him, White Owl. We're going to get him.
Hey man, you raped people. What are you doing talking like that? That was Bill Cosby being creepy and full of innuendo. Well, hope everyone's hanging in there. What you heard earlier was a phone call to the mayor's office. So that's just a reminder of what you can do actively. Go to 8cantwait.org and you can find what the police force in your area are doing to resolve the police brutality epidemic. These unruly murder squads are going around just killing people without consequence. And if you look at your state, you might be surprised to find out, oh, they ain't murdering me. Doesn't mean they're not murdering. Because that's what cops do. They murder. And they don't get charged. You know, if I have this theory that if Jeffrey Dahmer were a cop, you know, he would have been also charged with third-degree murder and been sentenced to 30 days community service. But lo and behold, he was a citizen. So there's a problem here when cops answer to a code of these super predator gangs, basically. Basically, Clockwork Orange is about police. That's what you didn't realize when you watched that movie. It's not about these weird guys with eyeliner in their eye that going around doing all these Benny Hill type of activity. You know, it's not all just no. Cops are murdering, and that's what's going on here. That's why people are angry. White America is protected from the fact that cops help, but the deep, dirty, dark secret that's kept lock under lip is the reality that fascism is alive and well in America, and it's He wears a badge and a blue shirt. You hear all these people talking about Blue Lives Matter. Man, we talk about blue lives. The blue lives I know about are in Charles Playhouse. The only threat you have to worry about there is getting drowned in a sea of toilet paper. Less so much being choked out for 9 minutes. Blue people don't do that. Racist white people do that. So get involved. Start by doing the least, but if you can, do the most. Go out there, protest. Break some shit that belongs to the state. Do something that makes it so shit changes, because it hasn't, and it hasn't for a long time. And you'd know that. Hey, you. Hey, psst, you, hey, get out of there. My dog is taking advantage of me and going into my trash can while I'm distracted. Hey, get out of there. What are you doing? You're catching me at my weakest hour here. You're going in the garbage can, you're grabbing all the peanut butter related objects, and you're like a hog in heaven right now. Well, we have a guest on the program here, a very funny and insightful and just an awesome performer by the name of Alexandria Cartwright. She performed on the Human Variety Hour. The one time it was at the Lizard Lounge before everything stopped being, before live venues no longer existed and have to worry about disappearing off the face of the earth in these times where rent is still gathered, where business is not taking place. Because guess what? Police brutality and capitalism don't take a nap during pandemics where the government orders you to take a nap. So, I don't know if it was a mistake or a good idea, but the dog is in the room. It is like 90,000 degrees outside, and to the point where you can't be a dog on a porch because all you're going to be doing is panting. And that's just, well, it only goes so far to the efforts to stay cool. So we got here near this air conditioner and this cool kitchen we got here. So let's, well, we don't have stages in real life, but we do have a stage here in your mind. I want y'all to hear a little bit of this stand-up from the great Alexandria.
So specifically, I'm from Tallahassee, which was most recently in the news for an event called the Yoga Studio Shooting. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but basically it was a very tragic event in which 3 people lost their lives. And what many of the news stations neglected to mention was that the shooter was actually a stand-up comic. His name was Scott Beerley, and having seen his Type 5, I can confidently say that walking into a yoga studio and shooting 2 women before turning the gun on himself was not the most unfunny thing he's ever done.
Risky. I'm glad it landed.
That being said, you know, it's hard to blame the guy. He just wanted to know what it was like to murder a room.
I'll take it back. No.
But yeah, I love Boston. I've been here for about a year. I think it's great. I love the seasons. I love seeing dogs and sweaters. You know, that's my favorite holiday tradition. And it was very exciting for me to hear the Boston accent for the first time because I'd only heard it in movies. I remember the first time that I got cut off in traffic and cursed out by a guy with a thick Boston accent. My immediate reaction was not, fuck that guy. It was, I am having such an authentic cultural experience. That wasn't the most memorable experience I had since I moved to Boston, though. I remember I was commuting to work during the Patriots' Day parade, and I looked out my window and I saw a man who was seemingly drunk, wearing a Patriots jersey, walking a dog who was seemingly drunk, wearing a Patriots jersey. And I was like, this is peak New England. I've been told that I'm very awkward. I've been told I'm very awkward. I went out and I got an autism diagnosis because I thought it would give me a sense of community. You know, because the autistic people have such rich cultural heritage. And I got a diagnosis of high-functioning autism, and turns out that having high-functioning autism was a lot like my experience of growing up black in a predominantly white community. And what I mean by that is that I was too autistic to fit in with normal people, but I was not autistic enough to fit in with people at competitive Scrabble meetups. But I do fit in with SoundCloud rappers. It's not all bad, though. There's a lot of great things about being autistic. It's very fun sometimes. Like, we had an event at work. It was like a game for the holidays, where essentially each coworker anonymously submitted a fun fact about themselves, and then the game was that one person had to guess and assign a fun fact to the person who said it. So I wrote down, I have autism, and then I got to witness one of my coworkers struggle to identify which of the 13 of us was the most autistic. To their face, it backfired. They identified me immediately. How much time do I have left?
You got like 20 seconds.
So I'm single. Dating, and I'm dating as in the modern era is very weird, especially as a woman. Because you have to strike a good balance between your personal values on one hand and then crippling loneliness on the other hand. And personally, I enjoy casual sex, but I'm also a feminist, so I like to make sure that the guy doesn't come either. All right, I think I'm going to end there.
Hey. I'm doing pretty good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tend to do that. Yeah. Well, I like to, I feel like I'm only capable of, like, writing jokes from my life. And so, I don't take those topics lightly, but it's like, I think humor is just my way of coping with, like, the things that happen.
And now I just turned up the volume on my microphone, so now the podcast is hearing me talk for the first time. So we're talking about technical glitches and stuff. All right, we're in. So that's the thing where you get into it straight away and talk about, your experiences having autism, and also, being basically like a triple minority, being a black woman with autism in a white kind of predominant area.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if those would be the exact words that I'd use to describe it, but, I'm definitely, I guess, a member of, like, some marginalized groups. Like, I identify as queer as well. But I don't know. I think they all have, like, different parts to play in my personality and identity.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, like, as far as, like, no single thing is your own identity, but, just the fact that hey, shit's already not easy, and then other stuff comes along and like, you know, becomes like bundles onto the old log pile kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to see them as like, you know, like burdens or anything, but they definitely put me in a place to empathize, you know, with people who are like similar to me. Yeah.
Do you have people like, as far as like community support groups that you get involved with, or as far as like, I know there's like different types of organizations and things where people can kind of share their stories, and I don't know, like, do you have people that you know that you can kind of connect with on certain things like that?
Well, you know, I lived in Florida for most of my life, so until like age 24, I guess, and then when I moved up to Boston, I like had to kind of completely reestablish my social circle because I didn't know anybody. So I think I'm still finding like groups to connect with. I mean, stand-up comedy for me, like the community was like really huge because, you know, everybody's like so supportive, like generally. So I mean, it doesn't really fall into what you were describing, but it like is definitely an important part of my like support network.
Yeah, I mean, I know the comedy, like as far as that goes, but it's like I almost think like as far as like knowing comics that have autism, there's almost like there's a precedent for it, and it's like in some ways, you know, not to be out of school or anything like that, but like having autism is kind of like there's like a hyper acceleration of certain things, like the ability to craft a joke, like there's the kind of focus on certain kind of areas like that, where like I hear that even like maybe Larry David has a type of autism people have kind of hinted at, where it's like he's so specifically neurotic and you know, like super has to be this way, like there's a control to it.
Yeah, well, you know, autism impacts people so differently, you know, like it's such a broad spectrum of like different behaviors, but I think for me, like one of the things that was useful about like being autistic was that like one of the I guess like the traits or the characteristic is like you don't really understand social rules, so you're kind of looking at things from like an alien perspective a little bit. And I think that like a lot of good comedy, or like comedy that I like, is like basic observations from sort of like an outside perspective. So looking at everyday things as if they were like completely new to you, or like, you know, sort of like highlighting things that don't make sense about like what we do every day. And so I feel like there's like an overlap there.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, I see that. Have you ever heard of? There's a podcast called Take Your Shoes Off.
I don't think so.
It's on YouTube. It's a video podcast, but the host of it, the creator of it, he's open about his experience of, you know, being autistic. So like that's kind of like a big, you know, it's almost like it's a glimpse of, you know, I mean, he's open about it. So as far as like he produces this show and kind of talks about, it's just interesting to see, I don't know, as to learn from an example of somebody or something like that, to have a sense of just when someone's open about their own experiences, it almost helps you understand it better. You know, if not for somebody to say, I am this and let me show you my own personal experience with it or something, it just helps people, I guess, gain a better understanding of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think, you know, I think sometimes comedy gets a bad rep for like punching down, or, you know, like making fun of groups, or like creating, like perpetuating stereotypes and things like that. But I think it can also be used to like destigmatize certain topics, especially if it's coming from a first person perspective. You know, because like why not like laugh at your own experience? Like, and if people see that you're comfortable with something, then they'll feel comfortable laughing as well.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like overexposed on stage?
You mean like vulnerable?
Well, yeah, because like I mean, I do stand up too, so it's like I tend to enjoy being sillier, or like just creating bits that don't, you know, it's more observational. It's more, I don't know, some kind of maybe there's like a message in it kind of thing, like almost like parabolic. But as far as like, you know, there's things that like I don't mention that I'm a type 1 diabetic on stage because I don't want to. Like I don't want to be like identified or being like, oh, that's a diabetic, you know, like. And I don't know. Maybe there's a certain aspect of built-in shame or something like that as a part of that, but it's also like I want to create joy on stage, so I like, you know, the creation process is the thing. But also sometimes, like, you know, I have in moments experimented with like making a joke and trying to tap into that, but then sometimes you're like, did I let out too much? And now I feel like if the joke didn't land, not only did the joke not land, but I feel like I didn't land, and now I'm like, ooh, now I feel extra out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I think that like being on stage in that context, like as a stand-up comedian, is inherently vulnerable regardless of what you say. Because I mean, it's the same thing with like playing music that you've made. Like it's like something personal that you're sharing with a group of people and then getting immediate feedback. And then you kind of just have to keep going. So I think I don't feel that like the content of my jokes makes me feel vulnerable. Like I don't really think it would matter what I was saying. It's just like, yeah, being up there, because it's a very solitary thing, you know, because like it's not as if you're in like an improv group or you know, you're working with another writer. Like when you're rejected, it's like it's exclusively you that's responsible for it.
Yeah, that is the thing. So there's like a power in it, and there's also like a only you are the victim of your own whatever or something. But like you get to keep all the benefits of a success.
Yeah.
That's cool to, I don't know, like do stuff like that.
Yeah, it feels like Russian roulette sometimes, but I think I enjoy it.
Do you feel like there's like what do you feel like when you go on a stage? Like, do you feel like you don't feel the pain as much as you, like, do you feel like you focus in on, oh yeah, when it doesn't work, it doesn't hurt me as much? Mostly you notice when it's good, or you find the good in the bad, or how do you approach like an audience dynamic kind of thing?
Oh no, I mean, I'm pretty frequently crushed when things don't go well, I think. But it's, you know, I'm still like relatively new to comedy. Like I've only been doing it for like a year and a half, I think. So I think I'm still kind of developing that thick skin. But I've gotten a little bit less sensitive over time. You know, I think it's definitely like contextual, because if there are like certain stages that I'm more comfortable on, then I kind of like, I can predict the audience reaction to some extent. But definitely if I go to like a new venue, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. Where do you feel like the best spaces for you? Like what's an ideal type of atmosphere? You know, like, do you like, is it worse to do a downtown bar and better to be in Jamaica Plain, or like better to be on I don't know, like one of the tried and true like Improv Boston or like the Comedy Studio, where it's like, this is an institution of comedy, it's comedy first?
Yeah, well, that clip was from Improv Boston, I think. It was like a late night show that like Anderson Comedy did, and so that was really fun. I think I prefer maybe like dive bars, because like places like the Midway in Jamaica Plain, you know, that's where I first performed, and you know, it feels like a home to me. Like it's just like such a chaotic environment, and that really appeals to me for some reason.
The chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, the world's chaotic, and maybe it's like a sense of you get to control a little piece of the world, kind of.
Yeah.
In a certain way, to like look at it like that. Did you, coming from Florida, you said you came from Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do comedy in Florida? Was there any kind of a thing there?
Well, I didn't really start getting into comedy until I was in college, or like, not even like watching it or anything. And I went to college in Tallahassee, and there was really only maybe like 2 open mics that happened, like, you know, every other week. So there wasn't that much of a scene. That club that I talked about, like Bird's Aphrodisiac Oyster Shack, was like really the only comedy club that I would go to. But I didn't really go up until I moved to Boston. I don't know. I think there's just like I kind of felt like Boston had such a rich history when it came to like performers and comedians, and I think I just fell into it like because I came to the city, and it was just like inspired by like all the talented people.
Like it presented itself to you in a way?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think maybe if I was in a different city, I might not like be doing comedy as frequently.
Yeah, it's such a thing where it's like, I feel like it's almost got this semi-level playing field with music to where it's like you go to some towns and you're like, well, it's like it's town specific and it's all like, there's big media towns, but it's like, if you go to just some generic city, it's like you'll find music venues, but you might not necessarily find the same surplus of like open mics and this comedy thing just popped up, and it's like almost like it reproduces, Like,
yeah.
People like the thing, they grow up with somebody else's thing, and they say, I'm going to start a thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, like spontaneous generation or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Boston is nice in particular just because like it's kind of a smaller city, like it's not overwhelming, but there's still like something to do every night.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel now? Like now that we're all indoors and cooped up, are you taking it well? How have you been like? Are you missing comedy? Is it like? Do you feel like a void of the comedy? Or are you like, oh, this is like what it was before I did comedy. I'm just doing some other shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely miss comedy. Like, I miss the community, and I miss being able to actually work out my material. Like, people nowadays are doing, like, a lot of remote mics or, like, Zoom mics, and, yeah, I mean, I think it's great, like, that people are still finding ways to, like, do things that they're passionate about, but it definitely doesn't feel the same for me in terms of, like, I feel like the incentive is gone when you can't hear, when you're not there with people. Like it's just like the screen is a huge barrier. So yeah, but I definitely miss seeing people. And I mean, it's been tough. I mean, I think it's tough for everybody, but I have tried to use it as an opportunity to, like spend time writing and like reflecting on things.
Yeah.
So, hopefully I'll be able to use that in my material when I get back on stage.
Are you writing more personally, or are you actually like, I'm crafting bits? Like, are you just kind of just trying to just basically express yourself and like just get stuff out there and on a page or something like that?
I think it's a little bit of a mixture of both, like, sometimes I'll just like write down my thoughts and they're not really structured. And other times I have a thought that I think is funny. And then I'll sort of like just write like a snippet in like a Google Doc or something like that.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to test out on this format? Where
oh, no,
if it's too much of a thing to put you on the spot, I could play a laugh track.
I think I feel a lot more comfortable at like if I get to test something in front of a live audience, like, but yeah, I don't know, to be continued, I guess.
You got it. Well, it was just an offer, or some of the, like, I'd have some comedians on, and it's like, I'd be like, do you want me to cue you up for a bit, and then you take it, and some people don't. It's a weird thing where it's like, now when we don't have audiences, it's like, how do you get the feedback,
Yeah.
How have some of those Zoom shows been, as far as like, does it like translate? Do you feel like it translates?
Yeah, I mean, I think people do it just to see each other's faces, to be honest. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it feels a little bit like group therapy, where we're all kind of like taking turns, just like talking. I mean, not to say it doesn't work completely. Just I think what I got out of being at an open mic is like missing because of like the format. because I don't know, I really like people watching and sort of like honing in on people's reactions, I think.
Yeah.
Especially like, I think I like the chaos of an open mic just because like it's interesting even to me when people like do poorly or they bomb. It's just like fascinating from like a sociological perspective. And so it's God, that makes me sound like such a sadist, but so yeah, it's not really, you can't really do that with like the Skype or like the Zoom open mics.
You know, you're talking about how it's almost like a group therapy. Yeah, I think secretly that's what all open mics are. Like, you know, on top of the performing and the actual comedy, it's more of like you find the thing where you have people that you have something you have an interest in common with, and it's less nerdy, I guess, or less stigmatized than going to therapy.
Right.
So it's,
I don't know. I think nowadays everybody's like a little bit more traumatized, and also like there's no like civilians, I guess you could say, in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm kind of using that term ironically, but just like people who aren't comics.
Yeah. Don't they have you been seeing some of these things where like they're actually trying to get people to pay for shows that are streamed at digital venues?
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that before.
But some of them, I think they're actually doing the thing now where they figured out how to have audiences be part of the Zoom, and then like a stand-up performer will perform their side of the Zoom, and they're like the lead focus, but then they get to actually laugh into their thing, so collectively it creates like a digital audience of some kind.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think Todd Glass did that once or something. Like he recently did something for like a Philly whatever comedy club they have over there. Yeah.
I guess we have that technology. Like I think Maria Bamford was one of the first people I saw doing Zoom shows, but she was accepting I think donations for like you know, various like political causes and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty low tech, but just, you know, I love Maria so much, it was worth enduring like the weird delays for her.
Oh yeah, because it's like the person. It's like, I think that's what's cool a lot about like stand up or entertainment or whatever. It's like now everybody is so just available in some way, to where it's like sometimes you're just like, I like your spirit or your essence. So like whether you're on Instagram doing a live thing or you're doing, you know, you made some little thing, but it's like sometimes it's just nice to see that kind of familiar face or something that resonates with you or something.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. When do you think that, or what do you think comedy is going to be like when it comes back?
Well, I don't know. I feel like people are going to be still nervous about like at least comedy people. I don't know. Like, I'm just generalizing and just thinking out loud, but it's like I feel like there's more of a neurotic sensibility where people are like, I don't know, like I don't want to risk it. I don't know. Maybe it's not that, but it's like I still feel like it's going to be a hard time getting people to show up at a big venue and not worry about the virus or something like that. But I almost feel like now that we're learning how to do all this new stuff and we don't know when the quarantine's going to end, that at least it's going to pivot and be this thing, and maybe it's going to take off and be like, there's going to be masters of this, like young people that are being born or raised up into this, like that are probably going to, they already, you know, people who are making like TikTok videos and like owning TikTok and stuff. Well, I feel like those people are like, oh, they're already underground. Like they're already making stuff in their bedroom and making great stuff just with their smartphone, and they're brilliant, like they're young, sharp minds. So I feel like those people might step in and almost find a new opportunity, and like, because you know, like TV shows are like not being made right now.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I mean, aside from like talk shows that do it from their bedroom and stuff.
Right.
But like, you know, I've heard like from like different like podcasts or whatever that like they're just halting production because people aren't coming together to like make anything. They're not getting into a film set together. So it's like, I think TV is almost gonna start to fade, or at least there's gonna be a certain thing where everyone's on their computer thing. So now it's like, I feel like that's gonna start to be like, oh, that's where all the content's gonna start coming from, and that's gonna be, there's going to be a paradigm shift, I feel like, at some point where it's like, it's just changing,
Yeah, definitely. I'm a little bit worried that there's going to be just like a huge influx of like COVID and like COVID material, and then jokes about like Black Lives Matter. What do you think? How do you think people are going to approach that? Like, I guess you can't like just outright ban a topic like from an open mic. I guess you could.
Well, who's a hack out there, People love to just comment on the exact immediate thing without even creating a punchline. They just say, the premise that we all know about, and I said it on the stage, and that's stand-up,
Yeah.
I don't, like, it's going to be boring, because it's just we're tired of living through it, let alone, if you don't have anything fun to consume about it, it's almost like, what's the point?
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about it?
About like those topics, or?
Well, it's like, people have made jokes of. I mean, I don't know. People who talk about racism from whatever perspective they're coming from, whether it's knowledgeable or ignorant, people have been doing that in a hacky way for a while, and people do it in a very important way also, or a very experienced way.
Right.
But,
yeah, I mean, I don't think that I'm of the opinion that you should be able to say anything, or like at least broach any topic when it comes to comedy. Like, that doesn't mean that it'll be funny or that people will laugh at it. And I think that a lot of people who like rely on stereotypes seriously lack creativity. And that's like a big part of why like those jokes don't land. But
it's all low-hanging fruit, I feel like.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting, though, just because whereas before, you would see maybe race come up as a topic occasionally, like at an open mic. Now everybody's at home, and it's like the number one topic on the news and like social media and everything. So, everybody's thinking about it. I'm sure people are like dying to give their perspectives or like their hot takes.
Yeah. I mean, don't you feel like there might be like at this point like a critical mass where it's like, I'm exhausted about hearing ignorant white people talk about race and just like, just say something just unuseful, unclever, unproductive. It's been happening forever, but it's like now I feel like we're all living in the same bubble of focusing on these military cops going around cracking skulls and stuff, to where it's like we're all indoors focused, It's not like we're out aloof and scattered and working in this field, and it's like I feel like we're all slightly more connected with the reality of, what's going on, maybe.
I think we're connected to some extent, but like because we're viewing everything through the lens of social media, it's like inherently warped. So, I mean, we're still subject to like the bubble of our social circles and like the specific news channels that we subscribe to and stuff. So I wouldn't say that we have a clearer view of reality. I mean, we may have more of a like variety of viewpoints that we're using to sort of synthesize and like understand the world. But yeah, I don't know if it's more objective, but.
Well, there's definitely people who just refuse to change, and they will always refuse to change. Like people who just like they can't wait for an opportunity to somebody shows something or in it like a statement, or even just a news story that's a story. They can't wait to chime in and say like, "Well, you were asking for it," or like I'm reading this and what am I doing responding to strangers on social media? But like, getting back into that mode, but like pre-Trump and then post-Trump, I wasn't doing that. And now it's like, you're looking at all the news and trying to make some clarity out of it. And then you have all these racist idiots that are like, doing the thing where they pretend they don't understand what Black Lives Matter means. But I think they're just trolls. I don't think they're dumb. They're just trolls, and they're lonely and they're poor, and they're kind of like, I need attention. Why is the attention on this instead of me and my struggle? So they're like, I know if I can't get positive, helpful attention, like it seems like these black folks, which I don't have any conversations with, they're like, well, I know that someone will respond if I say something just shocking or just the worst, and people get angry and they'll get 12 comments from strangers, and they get that. That's like their social life almost. So.
Yeah, well, I think that like social media, or like the culture of social media, creates like this weird pressure to just create content and you know, like share your voice, like regardless of you know, like whether you've reflected on it or not. So yeah, it seems like there's more of people are just like pressured into to like speak up and say something, whereas I think, you know, it'd probably be better if like people were more comfortable sort of absorbing information and like taking time to like think about something like before, you know, like expressing their opinion on it.
Yeah, like
just
that.
because like it's like especially with like BLM and everything, and like the protests, it went viral so quickly, like that. I don't know. It's weird for me because it's like police brutality has been a problem, you know, for decades, for such a long time. And I guess because of the protests, because everybody's like unemployed, because the rate of unemployment is so high, there are like environmental conditions that like make it possible for people to focus singularly on like this one issue. But yeah, the speed at which like everybody's like just talking about it is just crazy to me. Like obviously, you know, I think I'm like completely for the cause, and I think it's important. But yeah, and what else was I gonna say? But yeah, it's like if you are, I mean, there's like this sort of, I think, idea going around that like if you're white and you don't express your opinion, you know, then you're being actively harmful, and it's sort of like you're implicitly consenting to like structural oppression, or you know, you're like a part of the problem. And I think it's really important to inform yourself, but I also don't think that everybody needs to like express their opinion if they don't feel strongly about something. Like they should take the time to like learn about these issues and then like critically form an opinion based on that. So
it's like, remember back when people had to sit down and write a letter and had to like get the ink and the quill, and it's like you couldn't just blast out one of your thoughts, which is like, that's why I'm not on Twitter. It's just people having one thought distilled and just putting it out on the internet, and now everybody's individual thoughts are just out there, and now you can't see anybody because it's just this cloud of just single thought, as opposed to when people would write a book and that would be out there, and people made a movie and that would be out there. It's a created, conceived, like thought out thing. You know, like if you're gonna write something, it's like a letter or like an essay or like a, you know, editorial or something. But now it's like one thought based on nothing, and then that's searchable on Google.
yeah,
it just gets in the way of just, I don't know, vital stuff, or just it's all messy, you know.
Yeah, well, like, I think what bothers me even more than, like, how individual people are reacting is, like, I'm totally pro BLM, but it's also kind of, like, it feels confusing because it seems like now corporations are, like, profiting off of it, like, the idea of it, you know, like, I'm getting emails, like, you know, like Wells Fargo has always cared about the plight of the black people, you know.
Wells Fargo.
Or like Uber. Yeah, I got an email that was like, you know, Uber is with the black community or whatever. And like, you know, it's fantastic that like these organizations are receiving like funding and things like that. But it's also like, it's like a marketing tactic, like that's pretty transparent. And it feels like it kind of cheapens like the movement, you know, like, I don't know.
I 100% agree with that. And the same thing with Pride. Or now, you know, COVID, all of a sudden, everybody's got a commercial on TV to say how we're helping and how we're donating. And I saw the most disingenuous, like, doublespeak of an advertisement where it was like it was a potato chips, and they're like, this isn't about our brand, it's not about brands, but we're giving all this money away to the cause, and it's like, well, it is about the brand. You don't have just give it. Don't pat yourself on the back. Just give it and be an invisible donor. Instead, they're like, first of all, here's the Lay's logo, and then second of all, look what we're doing because we're thoughtful companies. So I feel like almost companies were once where they were like, there's a lot of them that are like the banks are typically evil and they have a lot of scandals and crimes committed. They get away with them in like finance and stuff like that. But like, now it's like consumer goods have to be thoughtful almost. It's almost like that is the state of marketing or business now, is like you have to be, I don't know, like like activistic somehow, or like you have to be involved with your whatever, because the government's not doing it. They're supposed to have resources and social programs but then they get bought out and exploited, and things are just stolen off the backs of people. So now it's like, it seems like all of a sudden I'm seeing these companies step up, like car commercials that are like, we're giving all this money to the Feed America Foundation, and it's like, well, that's good, but it's like, I'm not going to buy your shit though. So it's like, it's the thing where it's like, it's good that they're doing good stuff, but it's also just do good and stop trying to just do the good. Why can't people just be good instead of like, opportune off of how good we look being good? Or I don't know, there's a whole concept there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it all kind of goes back into the culture of like social media, where it's like all about visibility and like sort of constructing an image, and so you can share it and then like spread it to like an audience of people. And so I feel like spending so much time on like platforms like this has sort of rewired people's brains, where like they're more focused on like how they could package like an experience and sort of like share it, rather than like experiencing it directly, or like being like in the moment.
Yeah, it's all simulating stuff. It's like forcing you to simulate a certain experience of some kind, instead of, I don't know, letting people be free and democratic to choose the things that they want to do or care about, as opposed to having everything determined for you. So what is so as far as like, so one thing I noticed is that, so since all the protests happening in all the companies that are, it's Pride and people are talking about that, I don't see anybody like actually like speaking up as far as like, hey, don't be racist. Like, I don't see any TV commercials like saying, hey, cops are murdering people, don't do that, we don't agree with that being that happening. Why doesn't that make it to network TV? But there's other stuff that, like the COVID stuff, gets to be on TV. But I feel like, do you get paranoid, like conspiracy theory like that about stuff, or it's like, is there somebody getting in the way of like, we don't want to air commercials that take a stance on, actually saying Black Lives Matter versus hinting at it, which I see some hinting about just things like choose where love is and follow where your love goes, and we're a car and we love, and like it's just vague, as opposed to just getting to the point and saying fuck racism, buy a Honda, like we at Honda hate cops like we don't want to see them murder people continuously. Why is it that such a shock? Like, wouldn't that be the thing that would make you go choose a car? If you're going to say, well, hey, they're just putting their balls to the wall and spending however many millions of dollars it takes to put your commercial on TV. And by doing that, you're reaching all these people and actually connecting that message to the most broad amount of people,
Yeah, well, I guess, there's no like incentive to do that from a profit perspective for like a company like Honda.
But Nike did like the Colin Kaepernick kind of thing.
Well, I know that like Nickelodeon also did like a blackout of some kind, where they put like the words, like they made a statement about like George Floyd, and then they like turned off whatever was the scheduled programming for like a certain period of time. I can't remember, but
Wow.
so that's pretty explicit.
Nickelodeon was always woke. I don't know if you ever noticed that, where like in the 90s, like was it, well, Nick Jr., like Gola Gola Island was on TV. I mean, you had Cousin Skeeter was a show, all that. I mean, it was all kind of focused on urban living kind of thing. And it was all very pro-diversity, and like Good Burger, if you ever seen that movie.
I not in a long time, but yeah.
Well, they'll put it on Vice, you know, the TV channel now. And I watched it for the first, like, I mean, I don't know if when or how long ago I saw it, like, as a child, but, like, it's relevant. Like, it's crazy how relevant it is as far as, like, commentary goes for a Nickelodeon movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't know if I could write, like, an analysis of it or anything, but I have fond memories.
No, I was just trying to see if, like, you know, I don't know, maybe if I'm not even sharing in the same generation of Nickelodeon TV shows, like, back in the day. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think we might have had, like, slightly different, like, watched different shows, but I'm not sure. I mean, I know, like, going back and just, like, watching, like, SpongeBob, there's some pretty good, like, I feel like all the episodes hold up.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, SpongeBob's a good show. Well, I feel like, you know, I don't know if I'm keeping you too long here. Yeah, I want to at least, you know, pick your brain for a little while here and just kind of see what's going on and how shit's going.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it. You know, I think it's important that, like, everybody sort of stays connected in this time, and like that we can talk about these topics. And you know, I feel really grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It was awesome having you, and it was awesome having you on the live show back when that happened.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hopefully, you know, I don't know what we're looking at, a year or something, but, you know, once we can get a show back on a stage, I'd love to have you back on again. Yeah,
that sounds good. Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. It was great talking with you, Alexandria. It's Alexandria Cartwright, everybody. Awesome soul there. Getting into some stuff there. Well, I've been drinking coffee and sorts of things here and trying to stay hydrated, so I need to take a little bit of a station break, if you know what I mean. Station being the bathroom station.
We'll return after these messages.
I ask myself, Red, which ballpark Frank pumps more, the beef or original? Any fool can tell you it's the beef. Fool, who's a fool? Just my luck to ask a fool. The original pumps more. Don't tell me the beef pumps more. It's the original, because I'm the original dummy. You're the original dummy, all right, and it's the beef.
Hey, fella, we just want to know which plumps more.
Listen, one dummy around here's enough. Right, dummy?
High grades ballpark Franks. They plump when you cook them.
Want a cold capsule, Eddie?
Baby, that capsule's just for head colds. I'm also coughing. My throat is scratchy. I feel achy. I need some rest. I want...
NyQuil.
NyQuil.
Vicks NyQuil, nighttime cold medicine, relieves more major cold symptoms than the leading capsule. Relieves them for hours, so it lets you get the rest you need.
You treat me like a king, Laurie.
You got a cold tonight? Put NyQuil to work.
Does my antiperspirant keep me dry? No, sir. You don't do what I do and stay dry.
If your antiperspirant doesn't do what you hired it to, fire yours and hire ours. Right Guard antiperspirant. Get the drying agent that really helps keep you dry. Stops odor, too.
Well, it depends on the day. You know, on easy days, I'm dry, but on days like today, forget it.
Then fire yours and hire ours. Ours is Right Guard.
Grab a bucket and mop. Scrub the bottom and top. There is nothing so clean as my burger machine. With a broom and a brush, clean it up for the rush. Before you open the door, or to shine on the floor.
Alright, relax. Nobody's that happy to work at McDonald's.
Start all over again. Tell me, what does it mean? At McDonald's it's clean. You deserve a break today. So get up and get away to McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's.
They get paid $2 an hour.
Hi, I'm Ron Murphy. There's a lot of things you can eat at Jack in the Box. This is a Jack steak sandwich, and these are pretty delicious too. And this is a taco. This is an onion ring. There might be 10,000 things at Jack in the Box. Pack up the kids, crank up the car to Jack in the Box. Come as you like, come as you are to Jack in the Box.
Mrs. Butterworth?
Yes?
How come you taste so good?
Well, my syrup is very thick and rich.
Thick and rich?
Just watch. See how the leading syrup just runs over this stack? While Mrs. Butterworth takes her own sweet time. Now, my syrup's got to be thick to pour this slowly. Truth is, Mrs. Butterworth's is twice as thick as the other syrup. Thick and rich and...
Mrs. Butterworth, I love you.
Oh...
Eddie's teeth are all marked for cavities. My name is Mr. Tooth Decay. This is a tube of Crest. I had these teeth all marked for cavities, and they were just right for it, too. They were...
All right, that's enough from Bill Cosby for one day, I think. He's a bad man. What's he doing selling all these products to households? It's a dangerous character there. We are hanging out here on a Friday night. If you're keeping track of the hour, it is 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. It is 5:15 Pacific Standard Time. It might be a different day in Japan, wherever you are. Cops, a dangerous coronavirus. Stay healthy, wear the masks, don't take risks, don't be one of those dummies eating brunch during the Black Lives Matter protests without masks on. If you could be the most ignorant type of person and you're like, it seems like something inconvenience happening around me. Meanwhile, I'm trying to have an open-faced sandwich, which matches my face because I'm not wearing a mask. And it's, what are you doing? Why are you inviting that much trouble into your life by being stupid? And you can't take too much. Can't speak to if you have the privilege and of the education. You can't assume everybody had the same equal access. But, you got to change this shit at a fundamental level. And some of those places you can change that. Head on over to the Innocence Project and get involved. There are good ways to join protests, to donate, to sign petitions to release innocent people from prisons and impending death penalties for things that they didn't do, but some cop showed up and said, "We're saying you did it." The fact that I'm looking directly at innocenceproject.org. That's innocenceproject.org. And you can educate yourself if you're ignorant. You can learn somebody else's perspective on a matter that you didn't have previously. You can understand that this country is built deeply on racism and the fact that slavery still goes on in a secret format That's what private prisons are. They're taking advantage of a loophole where there is a slavery act that, effectively ended slavery, but there is a loophole where prisons are allowed to exploit prisoners to perform manual labor for free as part of their prison sentence. That is why cops have been tasked from the top down to have them catch people doing nothing or less than nothing or good stuff, and then take them away and saying, oh, you found marijuana and you don't have money to get bail, and we have a racist jury and we're going to put you in jail, and then we're going to have you go join this fire squad that goes into a burning forest for free, or we're going to have you make all the license plates in America, or we're going to have you produce frozen dinners for rich people. Guess what? That is slavery in a different shape. That is exactly what it is. So, I mean, and I know I'm probably just preaching to a choir here, because I don't associate with people that don't get it. Like, you gotta get it. You've seen too much shit. There's too much TV, there's too much internet to not get it. Otherwise, you're putting up all the filters, and you're literally, you're Patrick Star. You're living under a rock. You wake up in the morning squished by your half of a rock. That is your residence. So it seems like that's what a lot of the Midwest, or a lot of these areas that are just, I don't know, slurping on the dirt that they grew up in, and believing whatever their, local governors, the priest, or their whatever their parents. And I'm generalizing here, but I feel like there's a poetic license for the amount of generalizing you get to do for white people. I just feel like there's a lot of room to compensate for the fact that these cops going around murdering people. It's like, cut that shit out. So I'm going to stop talking, because, hey, what does my voice matter? Who cares what I have to say? Enough of me. I do have some stuff here where basically we're talking about how the past and the present coexist at the same time. Things that happened in the past are identical to what's going on now. The same protests, the same calls to revolution, the same cries of fascism, the same McCarthyistic government, the same House of Un-American Activities that Nixon was part of, catching people for being actors and creative types, and calling them communists and putting them in prison for expressing free thought. Guess what? Trump is the new. He has his own House of Un-American Activities, and he has a stormtrooper squad going around with protective gear and machine guns and tanks. If you don't get that, that's the stormtrooper of today, going around murdering people. I saw a video online. I actually saw it on, the singer of Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, Alex Ebert. He posted a video which is shocking, and if you watch it off guard, all of a sudden the color will just drain from your face. It just shows this murder squad of cops just walking down with their guards and their "I'm afraid of people without my machinery" kind of gear, and just marching forward. And this older guy walks up, and he has his camera phone out, and he's just frailly just walking forward, like tiptoeing. He's tall, and he's just like trying to say, guys, like trying to talk to them, and they're just marching forward, and all of a sudden they push him. Skull hits the ground. You don't see him get up. You just see blood. And for what it's worth, it's a white guy. So it's at this point, police are just killing citizens. It's for disagreeing. And I heard something from the national. It's a legal organization, part of New York, that these police force are actually asking protesters what their political affiliations are. We're not going to cover the obvious that that's illegal and that's irrelevant, but literally that's the symptom of capturing free thinkers. It's a squashing of the First Amendment. It is the persecution of Trump's political enemies. And hey, call it paranoia, but if every time you watch a YouTube video and you keep seeing that ad that says, "Do you approve of the president?" part of me thinks that some of that is gathering data to enter in a registry where he has you tapped for, if you are not on his side, that squad's coming after you. So, you know, there's that old video from of Hillary Clinton. It's from '96, and she's running for her campaign for being the New York senator, which is a position that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez now holds. She's quoted. I'm going to find the clip, so I'm not going to recite it. I'm not going to take it out of context. I'm not going to dramatize it. But if I can play it, then you know some fucked up shit that she said, where she enabled the culture that led to George Floyd being murdered for being black. So let me play this.
Works bring you long-form public affairs programming from the nation's capital and are a public service of your television provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
The fourth challenge is to take back our streets from crime, gangs, and drugs. And we have actually been making progress on this count as a nation because of what local law enforcement officials are doing, because of what citizens and neighborhood patrols are doing. We're making some progress. Much of it is related to the initiative called community policing, because we have finally gotten more police officers on the street. That was one of the goals that the president had when he pushed the crime bill that was passed in 1994. He promised 100,000 police. We're moving in that direction, but we can see it already makes a difference. Because if we have more police interacting with people, having them on the streets, we can prevent crimes. We can prevent petty crimes from turning into something worse. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
Yeah, maybe ask a few questions about why they ended up that way. And let me recite what you said. Gangs of kids. You said the word kids. You called them super predators. You said they're connected to drug cartels. No basis in fact or knowledge or anything, except she's double speaking and she's dog whistling against. She's supporting a militarized police state in 1996 New York. That is what she's doing. The FBI is getting involved. She ramped up a culture of prosecuting black people on the spot for, and the word she said was kids. Called them super predators, no conscience, no empathy. Not to be sexist, but bitch, you're talking about kids. But the thing you're describing is the cops that you're empowering to answer to nobody except her position of power and the people in that position of power. Which again, these kids that she called super predators that are on the street, you know why they're on the street? Because they're not allowed into access of places where, you know, funding is happening. The government's not funding communities and giving them school programs and the type of resources that are just inherently part of well-to-do communities of white people. But the whole time she's just not saying the word black, but the whole time she's dog whistling the word black. Saying kids. Fucking kids she's calling predators. I don't know if there's much more to listen to as far as this goes. It's just more anger-inducing. But, hey, again, this stuff's been going on for a long time. And there's one man I think about who can channel this rage into something more productive and has been doing it since the 60s. I'm referring to, of course, George Carlin, who joins us today.
Another abomination. White guys over 10 years of age who wear their baseball hats backwards. Listen to me. White guys, let me tell you something. You're never going to be as cool as black guys. It's not going to happen. You're white and you're lame. It's a fucking law of nature. Turning your hat around and learning a complicated handshake will not make you cool. And you black guys, since you started the whole thing, I'm going to let you stay with the hats a little bit longer, but I think really, once you qualify for Social Security, it's time to spin that motherfucker around to the front again. All right? Another tip for the men. The earrings, the thing with the earrings, it's over. Been over for a long time. Doesn't mean anything anymore. It was supposed to piss off the squares. The squares are wearing them now. Doesn't mean anything. It's just fucking jewelry. Unless you have an earring with a live baby hanging from it, it's just jewelry. And I want you to know I'm in favor of self-mutilation and personal disfigurement. I've always said there's nothing like puncturing and perforating your skin in a dozen or so places in order to demonstrate your high self-esteem. When I see a young man decorating his scalp with a soldering iron, I say, there's a happy guy. Thinks highly of himself. And haven't we gone a little overboard with these colored ribbons for different causes? Every cause has its own colored ribbon now. Red for AIDS, blue for child abuse, pink for breast cancer, green for the rainforest, purple for urban violence. I got a brown one. You know what it means? Eat shit, motherfucker! Eat shit, motherfucker! And what can we do to silence these Christian athletes who thank Jesus whenever they win, never mention his name when they lose? Not a word. You never hear him say, Jesus made me drop the ball. The good Lord tripped me up behind the line of scrimmage. According to these guys, Jesus is undefeated. Meanwhile, these assholes are in last place. Must be another one of those miracles. And speaking of delusional people, what about a guy who hears a voice in his head tells him to kill his entire family, so he does it? Is this the only thing a voice in the head ever tells these people to do is to kill others? Doesn't a voice ever tell a guy, go take a shit on the salad bar at Wendy's? Doesn't a voice tell a guy to take out his dick on the merry-go-round once in a while? Well, some guys do take out their dicks on the merry-go-round, but usually it's their own idea. Something else I can do without, aftershave and cologne. And this disgusting shit that men put on their bodies. Just what I need in the elevator. Some guy standing next to me smells like a fucking pine tree. I said, go home and wash, you smelly prick. You smell like the urinal in a Portuguese cat house. God damn, guys are stupid. Guys are really fucking dumb. They think they're going to get laid with this stuff, you know. Oh, yeah, they put it on at home. Oh, boy, I'll get laid tonight. You don't get laid with green shit that comes out of a bottle, okay? And the only smell that's going to help you get laid might be your own natural scent. You have pheromones. It's a secondary sex characteristic. People in America, nervous about sex. They want to cover that up and disguise it. Guys in Europe, they know how to live. Guy gets in the elevator over there, he smells like a pile of dog shit. Those people are sophisticated. Getting pretty tired of these guys walking around in cowboy hats and cowboy boots. You ever see these jack-offs? Can't we kill some of these motherfuckers walking around in a fucking cowboy hat? Grown man. It's not even Halloween, for Christ's sakes. I say, hey, Tex, grow up and get yourself a wardrobe consistent with the century you're living in. Why do certain men feel the need to dress up as mythic figures? You don't see anyone walking around in a pirate costume, do you? When's the last guy you ran into had on a Viking outfit? Make-believe cowboys. Closest they ever got to a cow is when they stopped to take a piss at an Arby's. And camcorders. Here is technology gone berserk. Everywhere you go now, there's some dick, some yo-yo, some putz with a camcorder, and he is going to tape everything. Doesn't anyone in this country just stop and look at things anymore? Sort of take them in? Maybe even remember them? Is that just a strange notion? Does experience have to be documented and brought home and saved on a shelf? And do people really watch this shit? Are people's lives so bankrupt they sit at home looking at things they already did? And these guys are so intense, you know. It's always guys. They won't let women touch the cameras. It's a highly technical skill. Look through a hole, push on a button, big skill. And they all think they're Federico Fellini. You ever seen any of this shit? Low angles, zooms, and pans, and it's the same ugly 3 children in every goddamn shot. All the George Lucas magic in Hollywood is not going to change the unfortunate genetic configuration on the faces of these children. Keep these unfortunate youngsters out of public view. Now, a lot of these, hold on a sec. A lot of these cultural crimes I've been complaining about can be blamed on the baby boomers. Something else I'm a little tired of hearing about. The baby boomers. Whiny, narcissistic, self-indulgent people with a simple philosophy. Give me it, it's mine! Give me that, it's mine! These people were given everything. Everything was handed to them. And they took it all. Took it all. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And they stayed loaded for 20 years and had a free ride. But now they're staring down the barrel of middle-age burnout. And they don't like it. They don't like it, so they've turned self-righteous. And they want to make things hard on younger people. They tell them abstain from sex, say no to drugs. As for the rock and roll, they sold that for television commercials a long time ago. So they could buy pasta machines and Stairmasters and soybean futures. Soybean futures. You know something? They're cold, bloodless people. It's in their slogans, it's in their rhetoric. No pain, no gain. Just do it. Life is short, play hard. Shit happens, deal with it. Get a life. These people went from do your own thing to just say no. They went from love is all you need to whoever winds up with the most toys wins. And they went from cocaine to Rogaine. And you know something? They're still counting grams, only now it's fat grams. And the worst of it is the rest of us have to watch these commercials on TV for Levi's loose-fitting jeans and fat-ass Docker pants. Because these degenerate, yuppie, boomer cocksuckers couldn't keep their hands off the croissants and the Haagen-Dazs. And their big fat asses have spread all over and they have to wear fat-ass Docker pants. Fuck these boomers, fuck these yuppies. And fuck everybody, now that I think of it. Well, sometimes in comedy you have to generalize. Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have selfish, ignorant citizens If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders. And term limits ain't going to do you any good. You're just going to wind up with a brand new bunch of selfish, ignorant Americans. So maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks around here. Like the public. Yeah, the public sucks. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody. The public sucks. Fuck hope. Fuck hope. Because if it's really just the fault of these politicians, then where are all the other bright people of conscience? Where are all the bright, honest, intelligent Americans ready to step in and save the nation and lead the way? We don't have people like that in this country. Everybody's at the mall, scratching his ass, picking his nose, taking his credit card out of his fanny pack and buying a pair of sneakers with lights in them. So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way. On Election Day, I stay home. I don't vote. Fuck them. Fuck them. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. The shit they shuffle around every 4 years doesn't mean a fucking thing. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain. People like to twist that around, I know. They say, well, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But where's the logic in that? If you vote and you elect dishonest, incompetent people and they get into office and screw everything up, well, you are responsible for what they have done. You caused the problem. You voted them in. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who did not vote, who in fact did not even leave the house on Election Day, am in no way responsible for what these people have done and have every right to complain as loud as I want about the mess you created that I had nothing to do with. So I know that a little later on this year you're going to have another one of those really swell presidential elections that you like so much. You'll enjoy yourselves. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure as soon as the election is over, your country will improve immediately. As for me, I'll be home on that day doing essentially the same thing as you. The only difference is when I get finished masturbating, I'm going to have a little something to show for it, folks. Thank you very much.
That is the timeless, the essential George Carlin, talking about shit that was as true then as it is now. All except for that camcorder business. What you talking about? What's a camcorder? But obviously you can translate that, to what we have now, which is people with smartphones and social media. It's the same concept of that. But I love that he was like the first okay boomer. Well, he said it best, and fuck everybody. Hey, I don't vote. Shit. What does he say? Shit in, shit out. Those are the things that get you by. You could not vote, as he says, or vote for Bernie, who is different from some of those things that he was talking about. But either way, if it's the same shit being squished around, then it's it's probably going to show up being a Biden or a Trump kind of thing, and the whole non-change shit is going to keep happening because this country was bought and sold a long time ago. Alright. So that was George Carlin, keeping it true to the past and the timelessness of it all. He's another white guy talking about the world. Just want to make sure I'm not overpowering this mic. Too loud, write me a letter and I'll change. Alright, you this song, as will your grandparents. Sage Woke Bob Dylan. I could sing another song that's particularly relevant, but it's 10 verses long, and it's one of those things where you live in it for a long time, and well, if this shit's still happening next week, maybe we just save it for next week without getting too self-indulgent on this podcast. Really the point here, go help affect change. And there's a few places you can do that. You can call your mayor. Go to 8cantwait.org. Go to joincampaignzero.org. And you can see how actual change can be affected by organizations leveraging the power levers, and they need the funding. So donate if you're white and you're privileged and you have it. I gave some money earlier this week to Campaign Zero, and hopefully people will continue to do that until something moves along, because we can't keep having this happen forever. And wouldn't it be awesome if, hey, this president man who showed up here and said he's going to shake shit up, what if he shaked it up in such a way that it came undone, and then something swooped in there and just took advantage of all its revealed weak spots? That's what being a disruptor is all about. You get into those weak spots and you pry the foundation open until shit that needed to be changed does change. If you're stuck in prison and you see, like, Andy Dufresne, if you see the weakness in your brick wall and you can take a little spoon and shovel in there and break your way out of prison, go do it. Take advantage of the weaknesses of these wrongful institutions, because that's all they're trying to do, is exploit your weaknesses and keep the power to the people who've always had it. Well, as you can tell, I have a wary voice, so wary that I'm able to channel George Carlin's wariness. And I've had it up to here with guys named Todd. And then he's also talking about, I've had it with people drinking out of water bottles, drank from the hose. You fuck. Yeah, that one's takes a toll on your voice. But the good news is it helps you sing Bob Dylan songs better. So there's a give and take there, as there is for everything. Alright, well, nothing left to do here. Let's end this show on time instead of overindulging, and hopefully keep this a tight, compact, more, substantially not contentious. I want this to be a show of substance, not of fluff. So the last thing we do here is say, but also rather sing Fare Thee Well, and that hopefully everybody finds some peace and wellness and happiness in this weekend of all weekends, where stress is high, emotions are high, isolation is high, anger is high. And you can say hi. If you want to get in touch, if you want to be involved in this program or be a guest on the show, reach out to me, Ryan at humanvarietyhour.com, and visit the website, humanvarietyhour.com, and please do what you can and give to the organizations in need. This is not an organization in need. It's just, it's a nice thought, I guess. Hopefully it's helpful or something to somebody. But again, that's all for tonight, folks. And then next week, show 7 p.m. and every Friday. And while shit's going on, hopefully we do some more useful, productive stuff and create positive change. All right. fare thee well. All right, fare thee well, everybody. Take care of each other. Love each other. Be there for one another. Step in. Be brave. Be bold. Don't be a coward. Jump in there if somebody's being a dick to somebody. If a cop is hurting somebody, do something about it. Don't just stand by and let harm happen. No more bullshit. No more... I don't want to see another hashtag about someone's name unless they won something. They were victorious. I want that to be the way things go. And we all have to come together and make that shit happen. It's tense. It's a tense week. But everybody, be peaceful, be calm to each other, be nice. And good night.